Greetings all, welcome. If you're new, welcome back. If you're not, today we're going to take a look at using Scalar inside of MPC Software or MPC Beats software. We're going to focus on a little workflow to help smooth out the process of bringing Midi, copying Midi directly from Scalar into a track. So let's first talk about how I'm set up here. I'm running on a Windows machine. And this is the most recent MPC Beats, early spring of 2024. So my project has one sequence called my song, one track called my keys, and on that track there are two programs defined. One is this default synth, and the other, and the important piece here, is my scalar. Okay, so the scenario is this. I'd like to use Scalar, play with Scalar, get some ideas, and then not necessarily use Scalar as the instrument, which I certainly could, but I just want to pull the Scalar MIDI directly. And the way Beats does it, it just kind of does a brute force method and just drops it creates a new sequence and everything else, which we can work around. So here's how we're going to run this. I'm going to go ahead and open Scalar, and in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get some scales out here to work with. And I want to do a little arpeggiated. So we'll turn on arpeggio. And we want to go down. We're going to do a little walk down. We want to go something like, no, we want to start down. So we'll do, all right. And that's all we want to do. And normally what I would do is I would just grab this and drag it in. Well, one thing to remember when you do just a lasso drag like that, even though I started from the right-hand edge and pulled this way, this is going to be my first one, that'll be my second one, the third one. To change that, click off, and then let me make this a little bit bigger, maybe it'd be helpful. Then hold your control key down, click on the first chord you want, the next chord, and your next chord. And then you'll see little numbers down below, 1, 2, and 3. That'll be how it will go into how it'll be copied into memory. Also, if you want to play it before you copy it, you can always say preview selected chords. This is a real handy little tool, and what you'll hear is all right, so that's what we want. We want those notes. So all I'm going to do now with those selected, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to just click on one of them and just drag into the MPC Beats software anywhere. I could drop it on the grid. I can drop it anywhere. It doesn't make any difference because once the program sees it, it starts a very basic loading sequence. And the first thing it does is it's going to try to load it into, or a loading process. It's going to try to load it into a sequence, and the first one, it's going to pick the first empty sequence, in this case unused. We're going to do that the first time, because I'm going to do this multiple times when I'm working on this little project, and we're going to go ahead and say do it. So it does not appear that anything has occurred, but if we go up to the sequence area, you will see now that we have a sequence called scalar chords. In scalar chords, which was automatically created for us, there is a track called scalar chords MIDI. And if we slide up, we'll see the MIDI that we brought in. Let's make this just a little bit bigger so we can see the whole thing. There we go. All right, so now these are the notes we want, and but they're not in the right place. In other words, they're actually not. They're not on the project that I'm working on, or the track. So I could do a couple different things. I could highlight these. And again, I get a little jumpy with my mouse here, and I could go highlight, and I could pull them and do copy and paste and so forth. But an easier way to do that, I've found, is to do this instead. So I'm going to go back to my song, right? And I'm going to be in the page on the track that I'm working on, the keys track. And I'm just going to go up to Edit, Sequence, and then within Sequence, I'm going to select the Copy Events option. Now the copy events option first is a from and then a to. So we're going from the sequence scalar chords, and we're going to pull the only track that's in there because it's going to continue to, every time we do it, it's going to rewrite that track, which is kind of the trick to this, or the kind of the core to this little workflow. We're going to drop it into my sequence track that I'm working on. and we're going to drop it at the first beat. In this case, we're going to, I usually do merge just to be on the safe side. So I would say just merge. All right, so there we go. Now we are in my song. There are the notes that we copied or we brought in from Scalar. I can see what that sounds like if I play it back in Scalar to hit the play button. Well, anybody with a close ear will notice that the perform is still turned on. That's one of the things that are kind of gotchas with people getting started with Scalar. Oh, even people use it all the time. You'll do something in perform, you'll drop it onto a MIDI track, and then you'll run it again, and perform will still be on, and it'll sound really, really strange. So in this case, yeah, doesn't sound too terrible, but you can hear it. So we'll just turn that off. Now it's just playing a normal, what you'd expect. But in this case, we're going to use, our target here is to actually play this on this, on the synth. So we're going to just go ahead and see what that sounds like. That's it. And so let's just change that up a little bit. Let's close that. Let's a little contrast. Let's just do this default here. And there we go. We got a little difference between the two. And so now we'll continue to bring in some more notes. So now we've got those in there. Let's say we want to add some kind of a little bit of a bass line or some chords down below this these notes. So what I can do now is I can just go back into Scalar. And let's say I want to take the same sequence, but I want to do it without the perform mode. And maybe I want to drop it an octave. Yeah, kind of heavy, but it'll work for now. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit my control key and get the first one, second one, and the third one. I'm going to drag it into anywhere on beats, drop it. I'll get my dialogue. Now this time, instead of letting it build a new sequence, we're just going to go back to the original Scalar chords, and it's going to overwrite that track from the last time. We're just going to say do it. Okay, and while we're still in our song, we're going to go through the same process. We're going to say, all right, edit and sequence, and we're going to go to copy events. And now again, we're going to go back to Scalar. There's the one track that it copied over, and we're going to bring it in, and we're going to do a merge, right? And so now we brought those all the way in, and we can go back and play them. All right. If we want to see what it sounds like in Scalar, it's going to be a little harsh, so be ready. All right, so that looks good. Now we got that opening, and this is really an exercise in using the tools, not making music, so bear with me on that one. So now we've gotten this, we're going to say, all right, let's go back into Scalar again, and let's see if we got something else we can play with. Let's say I want to go, let's go to just a different perform mode, and I don't know, let's just do basic performance. We'll do a slow draw on that, and this time I'm going to bring it up. All right, that's going to be my next my next part of this this beat. So again, this time I'm just going to drag it from the left-hand side because I want them to go back up, and I'm going to drag them back into Scalar, and I'm going to go through the same process. I'm going to go back to Scalar chords, say do it. All right, looks good. Now we'll go ahead and say go to sequence, copy events. And we're going to Scalar chords, but this time we're going to make a little bit of a change. We want it to begin right at the end of this last sequence. So I made it a point to come in and I made sure that I didn't mention it when we did it, made sure my cursor, I knew exactly where I was going. I'm going to the number 4 beat. So in this case, I'm going to go into that first field, and I'm going to hit 4, and I'm going to hit enter. I was hitting tab repeatedly, and it was not taking, and I couldn't figure out what's going on. And I realized you have to hit the enter key to actually make it, to have it take. And now we are ready to go. So again, I'm going to do a merge on this one. So now there are those notes that we added to the mix. And if we come on back to the end, or play from the beginning. Let's do the little more mellow version. All right. So all right. And that's it. So just a simple little workflow, but if you're consistent with dropping it into the sequence that gets created and then referring back to that MIDI page each time, you can pull MIDI notes directly into MPC Beats just a little easier than kind of bouncing around and copying and pasting and things like that. Hopefully this was helpful. We'll get into some other things later on, and until then, have a good one.